I think it really boils down to into listening.
Yeah.
Listening to your partner and listening to yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm also really struck by how difficult that is, and especially for men, and possibly for men over 50 who've been, their patterns of behavior have got very deeply ingrained. So to shift that is really not easy.
Did you feel that the advice in the book about how to revive a long-term relationship sounded kind of appropriate to you, and what stood out for you in that?
I think you suggested perhaps having new shared interests, or I would think some kind of adventure together.
Yeah.
But you can't have that unless you listen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to look like somebody's idea that somebody else is following, and the relationship will just go back into its old patterns. Yeah. I think there's something that men do when presented with something is, oh, how can I do that then?
Yeah.
How can I make that happen?
Yeah.
How can I fix that?
Yeah.
Oh God, is it my fault?
In a way, I think for a man that's probably quite helpful, is to see it as a task. You know, it's
Yeah.
quite a subtle one, but make it a project is one of my bits of advice to men about relationships.
Yeah.
And I know that tends to horrify women.
I think what really touched me was that I don't actually understand men. And I think there's a thing that happens in relationships, in more mature relationships, where people think they know each other.
Yeah. How would women benefit by reading this book about men beyond 50, do you think?
I think they just gain a greater understanding and compassion for the men they're with. And maybe it'd be good for them to try some of these things as well.
Men need to take on more feminine qualities, but also women need to take on some of the masculine qualities, or, structure, which is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I feel like this book is written very much from a man's point of view, and I'm not sure I've ever read a book that's so much written from a man's point of view.
One of the things that's quite striking is that this age group is now a high-risk group for affairs.
It's interesting because affairs are such like a kind of emotional, physical explosion.
Yeah.
In the midst of an affair, as you said, nobody's going to think, let me consult this book and see what kind of affair I'm having. But in the wake of one, or maybe in the recovery, it would be really
and just
useful.
possibly on the brink of one.
Yeah.
I agree, it's hard to reach people, but it still seems important
or
to
at
try.
the point when you realise that it's got to be shared.
Yes. Yeah.
Or your partner finds out.
Yeah. In some ways, it seems to me it's the other partner who you can reach more. So partly what I was writing was for a man whose partner is out having an affair, how on earth do you handle that yourself?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of men by that point whose marriage will have broken up or a long-term partner. So you've got, I found this in my own life, was suddenly being on the singles dating scene at the age of 50, having been in a marriage for 26 years. It was like I really didn't know where to start.
I think what really strikes me is the need for real partnership, for a partner who isn't just going to look after the kids, but actually to be a partner and to go through the issues of later life together. And actually what you need for that is real intimacy, spiritual, emotional, physical intimacy.
But it does require a real courage to be vulnerable in men to get to that intimacy.
It does. So how to kind of honour that, to honour masculinity as a woman, and not to pressure men into, come on, show me your feelings. But just, and I think that again, you've got to go back to this balance thing. I listen to you, you listen to me, and take time.